Hey guys, Christopher Nolan here. So if you guys realize, there's a little bit of a change of area here. That's right, we're at the Piggy Bar. This is a little bit of a bar area because I'm gonna start a little bit of a new series here with you guys where Piggy is gonna go over all the aspects of betches, bar bets, things you could do to earn yourself a little bit of a drink if you're in a bar, if you're in the right situation, and somebody says, hey, you're that magical guy I see on YouTube, or hey, you're that dude I saw the other day hanging around at school doing card tricks. You should show me something. And you go, you know what? I'll give you an opportunity to win yourself a beverage, sir. How's that? So I thought, hey, I'd give you guys a little bit of a crash course here, a little bit of some bar bets you guys could use to win over those rowdy bunch at the bar. So I made a little bit of a studio here. You know, normal stuff you'd find right around a bar, maybe some Chipotle napkins, might find some cups, and my favorite, Diet Coke. If it's good enough for our president, it's good enough for me. So here's the thing, guys. I'm gonna show you guys my first bar bet, and one that was pretty much the first thing that I learned when it comes to bar bets. And it's a very simple one. And it's based on a mathematical principle that not a lot of people know of, and that is circumference.
In this video, we're going to learn how we can use that ratio to calculate the circumference and the area of any circle.
So here's a simple wager for this bet. You tell the participant to make a choice whether or not they think that the circumference of the glass is taller than the glass. So which one do they think is bigger, the circumference or the actual height of the glass that you hold that delicious brew? An ambrosia nectar of the gods. Most spectators at this point are gonna say, hey, I'm aware of this little bit of a scam. I know that the circumference is probably gonna be bigger than the height of the glass. And you go, okay, that's interesting. How about if I put it on top of a deck of regulation playing cards, sir? Now, which one do you think? Do you think the height is more, or do you think the circumference is more? Some spectators at this point will change their mind and say, sir, you know what? I'm gonna go with the height. And you go, tell you what, why don't we add another deck of cards to this? And the spectator at this point says, yes, sir, definitely the height is bigger than the circumference. And you go, you know what, let's do this.
Another one.
I'm willing to bet right now, sir, that the height of the glass is less than the circumference. And of course, the spectator will take you up on this bet because only a madman would think at this point that the circumference of the glass is anything bigger than the height of the combined glass plus the cards themselves. So here we up the ante and we add another card box. This time there's no spectator in the entire bar that is willing to think that the circumference of the glass supersedes the height of the glass plus the deck. And here's where you go absolutely crazy and you add one more deck. Here's your final bet. You wager whatever it is you want. You could get a drink, you could get sexual favors at this point, and you are still with the assumption that the circumference of this glass is taller than the height, including the decks of cards. And of course, people take you up on their offer and you decide to measure it in this way. You could use a napkin, you could use a string, you could even use a ruler, it doesn't matter. So to measure the circumference of the glass, we're just gonna employ a little bit of a simple principle here. We're gonna wrap the napkin around and measure the point of contact. So when we wrap this around, we notice that it's gonna have a little bit of a point of contact here, and that's gonna tell us the approximate circumference of the glass. In this case, the circumference is all the way up here. So if you guys notice, the circumference ranges from here to here. And if we compare it, we notice that the circumference of the glass is a tad bit taller than the height of the glass involving the 5 decks of regulation playing cards, thus allowing you to enjoy the fruits of your labor and the fact that you have swindled the spectator out of some serious coin. So we see the comparison here. Over here on top, above the frame of the camera, if I could push it back, you notice that that is the height of the glass and the circumference compared to each other, thus proving that you are in fact smarter than the spectator and worthy of all the adulation. Oh, so how does this work, you might be asking? Well, it's based on a mathematical principle that people tend to underestimate the size and length of our circumference compared to other things that could be visualized easier. For example, the height of this glass is easier to measure than the circumference, because we don't tend to be able to estimate circumference well, whereas height, we could kind of differentiate and say, oh, this is this tall, this is about a couple inches tall into space, whereas the circumference, because of its shape, it's a lot harder to determine its full length. So we could take advantage of that small little bit and realize that by stacking cigarette boxes, or in this case decks of playing cards, we could actually build the height up to where it's preposterous to assume that the height of the glass is smaller than the circumference. However, if you guys play around with different bars and you guys play around with different sizes of glasses, in this case this is a mason jar, you'll see that it could reach a pretty substantial height. Now, of course, for this, you do want to measure it out beforehand. So when your participant decides to hit the loo or go to the bathroom, that's when you decide to make sure that your bet is going to work here. You could use some string, you could use some napkin to measure the circumference. If somebody happens to have a tape measure, still works out fine. You're not cheating on the actual height. You're generally measuring around the circumference by adding a point here, circling the napkin all around the circumference of the glass and measuring it that way, so that the spectator could do this themselves and make sure that you are not in fact cheating on that aspect. You are just cheating on exploiting their lack of knowledge in this case. So this is a simple bar, but it's the first one that I learned, and one that when I learned, I realized that it is a powerful one indeed, because most spectators, again, make the assumption that the circumference is less than the actual height of the glass plus all the playing cards. So number one, you want to make sure that it actually would work. So whether or not you use decks of playing cards or cigarettes, it's well recommended for you to go out of your way and purchase cigarettes and glasses and try this out with many different types, so that when the opportunity arises and you happen to be at that bar, and guess what, you're going to be able to fool a spectator and win a glass of the bubbly every single time. Or if you're like me, nice cool can of classical Diet Coke. So that's the bar bet, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys perform it. Make sure to do all the things that people do when it comes to videos, and I will see you guys on the next one. I'm gonna go figure out different ways to use Reeboks to run to the Nike store.
When I see you again, 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 when I see you again.